Hey guys, Dr. Andy here again. Today I want to talk about how to approach a gym injury and the quickest and most efficient ways to recover from a gym injury. So it is probably one of the most common things we see here in the office is people hurting themselves at the gym, unfortunately. That and people hurting themselves at the desk, right? So if you're a desk worker and you kind of develop all of that upper back and neck pain, we see tons of that. And a lot of times it's combined. We see patients that have desk injuries, and at the same time they've hurt themselves at the gym, and it definitely is related, right? So today let's talk about how to recover from a gym-related injury, okay? Whether that is traumatic or repetitive. So a traumatic injury would be like a muscle strain where you've overstretched and maybe some of the tissue is actually, the muscle tissue is physically ripped. Minor rips, nothing major, major typically. That's one kind of gym injury. The other kind of injury is actually a repetitive stress injury. Let's say you're doing your squat wrong and you do it over and over and over again and it doesn't hurt the first 1,000 times, but 1,001 you basically worn yourself down to now you're starting to feel some pain because your movement patterns are wrong. All right, so let's talk about how to recover from those type of injuries. All right, the first question you have to answer is, do I have to back off, right? And these are some of the things that we always talk about with all of our patients who have these type of injuries. It's one of the most common questions that we answer, all right? Do I need to step back? Do I need to stop exercising? Usually the answer is please do not stop do not stop exercising. Sometimes we do have to back away from the specific movement that you were doing while you got hurt. And absolutely, if you're working out at the gym and you are performing a movement and that movement hurts, my first piece of advice to you before you can kind of come in for an eval is you got to stop doing that movement. All right, at least give it time to heal. It's really common that, especially with like a low back injury or something like that, we do have a directional preference, which means that maybe it doesn't hurt if we lean forward, but it hurts when we lean backwards. And if you keep doing that exercise over and over, that makes you go into extension. It makes the problem worse. So we do have to be conscious of that. At the beginning, I would always recommend that if you do have a fresh injury from the gym, number one is to avoid the pattern and the movement that hurts. But overall, I do want you to stay active. Walking is a great alternative. Maybe move to cardio if that's all you can do up until we're able to kind of do an eval for it. But that leads us into question number 2 that we hear all the time. Which is, when do I do something about this, right? I just hurt myself on this past weekend at the gym. It doesn't feel that bad. Like, do I need to come in now or should I wait? Like, what do I do? The rule of thumb, there's a couple of, red flag questions that we can ask you here on the phone if you call in or something like that. If you're a current patient, if you just need some advice, if you're having neurological symptoms like pain going down the leg or something like that, that's an immediate yes. You need to come in for an eval or get into your local chiropractor, your physio. If you are having, neurological pain, especially pain down the arms, down the legs, that's an absolute, you need to get in and be seen by someone immediately. But if you want to kind of see how it's going to heal at home, my rule of thumb for that one is about 2 weeks. If you are still hurting 2 weeks after the initial injury, it is definitely time that you should get an eval, right? And obviously, anytime that you want to come in before then, I still, recommend. There's no harm in that, especially if the doc is going to perform some kind of movement screen on you to check those movement patterns to see if anything kind of broke down from the injury. All right. So 2 weeks max is how long I would let you go. Student at home wondering if this is going to get any better. Anytime before that is still golden, go for it. So what do we do with our patients after they've had an injury? And so let's say they're on some kind of a treatment plan in here in the office and they're feeling a lot better and they're starting to go like, all right, cool. Like, I want to get back into the gym. I want to start working out again, especially with those movement patterns that maybe kind of hurt us. Perfect example of what we use, or let's talk about long distance runners, right? We have something called an activity or baseline activity tool, right? With that, let's say for a runner, for instance, right, is you find how long you can do that activity comfortably. So maybe for a runner, that's 1 mile, right? If you're a power lifter, maybe that's squatting the barbell, right? 10 times, 3 sets for 10, right? And that's all you can do without pain. If you go any past that, you can hurt yourself, right? So this is where this tool comes in, all right? Every time you perform that activity, as long as you are without pain, you're allowed to add 10% either intensity or time to it. So if you're a runner, you can either add, if you're running for 10 minutes, the next time you go out, you're allowed to run for 11, right? If you're a power lifter, if you can do 50 pounds on the bar, the only thing you can do after that is 55 pounds, right? And each time you perform that activity, as long as you're feeling okay, you can increase it by 10%. And that is one of the best tools that we use to help our lifters or our runners, a lot of our athletes, return to their sport without re-injuring themselves, right? And then that leads us into the final thing that we're going to talk about today, which is how do we prevent re-injury, right? And it's all about movement patterns, right? So I said a little bit before, we can have movement patterns break down that cause our pain with a repetitive stress injury, right? But whether it's traumatic or repetitive, what happens is we hurt ourselves, right? Whether it's taking an awkward step off of a curb, whether it's sitting in front of a computer all day, whether it's, you snatching, too many times in one day and, you throw your back or you throw your shoulder, something happens, right? And we get hurt, right? Well, the human body has a wonderful ability to adapt around our source of pain. Right? And that's because we needed to be able to survive as a hunter-gatherer. If you sprain your ankle and you can't keep up, with your family and your tribe, you could die. So we developed an ability to adapt around injuries so that your body can keep producing and not get left behind, right? Survival instinct, right? So if you sprain your ankle at the gym, whether you know it or not, a lot of times you can recognize it. You start to walk a little differently, right? You're putting less pressure on that foot maybe to avoid the pain, but now you can at least travel, right? That's fantastic in the short term, but long term it causes more and more and more problems. So anytime we have a gym injury, it's very, very important to check those movement patterns, because you've now hurt your shoulder doing the snatches, or maybe you hurt your knee on your long runs, or you hurt your hip when you were squatting, right? If you immediately go back to those movements and you're doing them wrong, well, I'm going to see in 6 months from now the exact same darn problem, and that's a nightmare a nightmare problem for me. I don't want to see that. So what we do is when we get you out of pain, and we start working on that activity tool to get you back towards your desired sport. At the same time, we are going to run you through something like a functional movement screen. And a functional movement screen is going to look at your movement patterns and look for anything that has broken down as a result of that original injury. A lot of times we see stuff that broke down from even before that as well, right? But we're going to look for the movement patterns that broke, right? And then we're going to do rehab to fix those movement patterns and then release you out so that you can kind of adapt and get stronger, right? If you try and lift heavy with broken movement patterns, you're not going to get stronger. You yourself are going to break. So we want to make sure that you can adapt and get stronger instead of break down, right? And so we do that by checking your movement patterns, and that's how we prevent problems from getting worse in the future, okay? So that's kind of like a 4-step process that we use with our gym injury patients, all right? I hope that you found this information kind of useful. If it applies to you, just reach out if you have any questions or anything like that. And always remember to live with passion and not pain.